Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and tonight I'm going to be talking about a television show that I loved as a kid. I used to watch this with my grandmother. I've always had an interest in science fiction, and the paranormal, so it was right up my alley, and I am talking about In Search Of, hosted by the legendary Leonard Nimoy. If you've been enjoying my channel, please subscribe to it. Make sure you hit the little notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever I post a new video. I try to do them on a fairly regular basis, but unfortunately sometimes life will get in the way. If you enjoy the video, give it a thumbs up. Leave something down in the comments. Tell me something you enjoy about the video, something you don't enjoy about the video. If you have any experience with this show, or just, if you have any interest in the topic at hand. So let's get right into it. The show was on for 6 years in the late 70s, early 80s. I really enjoyed it just because the topics that it covered were always things that I was interested in. I watched it, on and off as a kid when I could. And later as we got into my teen years and we had cable, I watched the reruns on A&E, and then I forgot about it for a good many years until about maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I found out that the whole series is available on DVD, so I went ahead and picked that up, maybe $20, $30 or something like that, and I binged the entire series. I really enjoyed it because, again, these are topics that I have an interest in. Science fiction, science, medical technologies of the time. Again, set in the 1970s, and of course the paranormal, and they talked about a lot of legitimate things on the show, whereas I did a radio, coast to coast radio program video a while back talking about how that's a little more out there as far as science fiction. This was definitely much more grounded in reality. They had scientists that were part of the staff of the show. They'd go around all over the globe doing all these investigations, and what I liked about it was they would tell you as a disclaimer in the intro, here's all the evidence, we're presenting it to you, you make your decisions. So they didn't force you to think that way or say, this is real, this is not real. So I always thought that was pretty cool. Again, some of the topics that they talked about were a little out there at times, but they talked about aliens, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, ghosts in the paranormal. They talked about Stonehenge, Druid temples, Atlantis, the Bermuda Triangle, the Aztec and Inca empires. They talked about, trying to think some other things, Amelia Earhart. They talked about space travel, time travel, medical technologies of the time, science of the time, cryonics or cryogenics, whatever they call it, freezing people and trying to revive them at a later time. So all these topics, beyond the regular scientific topics and medical topics of the day that they talked about, again, to me, it was all really fascinating stuff. I really enjoyed the show. Like I said, I used to watch it with my grandmother when I was a kid. I watched a lot of TV, spent a lot of time with her. We bonded a lot. And I don't know if she had interest in any of the crazy stuff that I did, or she was just kind of there for me. But either way, I have a lot of fond memories of that. Again, being hosted by Leonard Nimoy, I always had a respect for Leonard Nimoy. Of course, I didn't know him as a person, but I respected his work because it seemed like he never took a job for a paycheck. He had to be invested in it. He had to have a genuine interest in it. And I know he kind of got tired of the whole Star Trek thing, but he stuck around, obviously, and is a fan and somebody to be admired. Seemed like a genuine good guy. So he was the host of the show, and every once in a while he'd show up in a little segment. And like I said, it lasted about 6 seasons. They tried to revive it. I think it was 2008 with Mitch Pileggi, who was on the X-Files. Made about 8 episodes. I never really watched them. They are on the DVD set. I just haven't watched them. And then there was another reboot tried in 2018 with, what's his name? Zachary Quinto, who was in the show Heroes. I never watched it. My wife used to watch it. He was also Spock in the newer Star Trek movies. I don't think that lasted very long either. What's pretty cool about the DVD set is there's 2 or 3 made-for-TV movies that were intended as the pilot to the series that are narrated by Rod Serling. So that was really cool. Rod Serling is somebody I really admire for his work. Not only being a veteran of World War II and a paratrooper and having seen all kinds of crazy things that opened his mind up to all this creativeness he had, but just his work with the Twilight Zone and the Night Gallery. Again, it's one of those shows that if you have any kind of interest in science, medical technology, science fiction, it's a good starting point. It's not so far out there Again, like the Coast to Coast radio program that I like, which is way the heck out there, this is a lot more grounded, like I said earlier. So I would definitely encourage you to check it out if you've never seen it. It's still on some cable channels. We got rid of cable a couple of months ago, and it was the best decision we ever made. We just pretty much stream. I have a lot of DVDs and things laying around, so I've been watching a lot more older stuff. I mean, there's a few shows here and there that we watch, on the streaming services, but generally speaking, I kind of got away from modern TV, and I find myself going back to the classics, as I would call it. Maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's just the memories of an easier, simpler time, or whatever the case may be. Like I said, this is always something that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed Leonard Nimoy hosting it. I enjoyed the topics that were discussed. Again, somebody like me, I always had so much curiosity about these things, and I didn't have an outlet for it. A lot of my friends growing up, a lot of my family growing up, they never had any interest in any of this kind of stuff. Only my grandmother and her sister did, to some extent. So I remember talking a lot about that as a kid. So this was a good companion show for me. It was an outlet for all the creative, I don't want to say forces, but all that energy that I had. It was a good outlet for that, and I learned something new watching these episodes. They were pretty interesting. Again, it doesn't 100% hold up because we're talking about from the late 1970s, early 80s, and here we are in the 2020s. But give it a chance. I think you'll enjoy it. Be patient if you do watch it. Again, this is not going to be in 4K quality. This is not recorded in super high definition, and it's hard for me. I'm not somebody who cares so much about that per se. It's the same thing in the realm of video games. I'm not a graphics whore, like what I like to call some people. I play for the gameplay and the story. I can look over things like that, but I will admit, after a couple of years of watching Blu-ray and 4K and all this high definition stuff, it is kind of hard to go back and watch what this is called standard definition. But again, the topics were so interesting. The show was very interesting to me. It had a cool little theme song, and of course, Leonard Nimoy. That made it easy for me to look over that. The fact that the picture quality is not that great. So again, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about that with you guys. Not really a lot to say. It's kind of one of the things that you have to experience yourself. But I did just want to tell you that In Search Of was a very interesting show. If you have any interest in those topics, definitely check it out. You can probably get it for $15-20, the entire series on Amazon, which is what I did. And check it out. You might enjoy it. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the like button. Tell me something down in the comments you enjoyed about it, something you didn't like about it. If you are a fan of Leonard Nimoy, if you're a fan of these topics or the show, I'd love to hear from you guys, and we will see you in the next episode.